ASEAN centrality crucial as backbone in facing global challenges. Spain holds European, Arab nations to pressure Israel on Gaza. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching World Today with me, SAHIH. French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in Vietnam on Sunday for the first leg of his Southeast Asia tour, where he will pitch his country as a reliable alternative partner to the United States and China. During his 6-day trip, which includes Indonesia and Singapore, Macron will underscore his respect for the sovereignty of ASEAN countries caught between the United States and China. The French president is scheduled to meet Vietnam's top leadership on Monday in the capital Hanoi and key energy sector players on Tuesday. Macron is hoping to showcase France's expertise in civil nuclear power in Vietnam and Indonesia, which are keen to embrace this form of energy, although other countries, including Russia, are also in the running for deals. In Indonesia, Macron will hold talks with the Secretary-General of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, Kao Kim Hon, on Wednesday. Macron's aide said the president is defending the idea of international trade rules and reiterated that France doesn't want a jungle where the law of the strongest prevails. North Korea has detained shipyard officials responsible for a recent major accident during the launch of a new warship. The failed launch that crippled the 5,000-ton warship was witnessed by leader Kim Jong-un. Kim said the accident damaged the country's dignity and vowed to punish those found responsible. The mishap occurred in front of a large crowd at the northeastern port of Chongqing. As the investigation into the case intensified, law enforcement authorities arrested the chief engineer of the Chongqing shipyard, among others. Satellite imagery shows the warship, covered in blue tarps, lying on its side with the stern swung out into the harbour, but the bow remaining on the side slipway. Kim has ordered the ship restored before a ruling party meeting in June. Images released by Russia's defense ministry show a number of soldiers returning to Russia by plane after Kiev and Moscow completed their biggest prisoner exchange since the start of the fighting. 1,000 captured soldiers and civilian prisoners were exchanged between each side of the last 3 days, a move agreed during talks in Istanbul on 16 May. The agreement was the only concrete step towards peace to emerge in more than 3 years. US President Donald Trump said on Sunday that he was not interested in moving textile manufacturing back to America, saying instead he was focused on big things like computer chips and tanks. Trump also said that he had agreed to extend a deadline for trade talks with the European Union until 9 July, after President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, said the bloc needed more time to reach a good deal.
And she said she wants to get down to serious negotiation because I've told you specifically, but I told anybody that would listen, they have to do that. And we had a very nice call, and I agreed to move it. I believe June 9th would be, July 9th would be the date. That was the date she requested. Could we move it from June 1st to July 9th? And I agreed to do that. And that she said we will rapidly get together and see if we can work something out.
Trump had threatened on Friday to invoke the steep tariff as soon as 1st June, saying talks with the European Union over his previous levies were going nowhere. Trump said he was not looking for a deal with the EU, repeating his oft-stated view that the bloc was created to take advantage of the United States. The 46th ASEAN Summit officially kicks off today. The event held at the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre brings together top leaders from ASEAN member states except Myanmar, along with the leader of Timor-Leste, attending as an observer nation. ASEAN leaders were welcomed upon arrival by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. In his keynote address at the plenary session, the Prime Minister underscored the importance of ASEAN's centrality as the backbone of the bloc's strength in facing global challenges.
These milestones offer a renewed sense of optimism and confidence for ASEAN, underscored by remarkable resilience against a backdrop of increasingly complex and sobering global developments. Nevertheless, we are thankful for the spirit of centrality and the fraternity among ASEAN member states in being able to come together to forge a common front in dealing with these challenges.
He also emphasized the importance of preserving the multilateral system, particularly highlighting the ASEAN GCC-China geo-economic model as a key to building a more inclusive and sustainable future.
In this regard, I must again thank you, the leaders, for your trust, friendship, and excellent relations at the personal level, at the bilateral level, and the ASEAN level. To be able to, for us together, to convene the first ever ASEAN GCC China Summit, which demonstrates our reservoir of goodwill, empowering us to deepen and expand our partnership and to act with strategic clarity. Appreciation and thanks to the colleagues.
The summit began with a plenary session followed by a retreat session, the key platform for ASEAN leaders to assess progress in three main pillars: political security, economic and socio-cultural cooperation. In his address, Datuk Seri Anwar also touched on the unilateral tariff imposed by Washington on ASEAN members. He said that he had written a letter to US President Donald Trump to organize a US-ASEAN meeting to discuss the tariff issue and seek his understanding on the matter.
When we encountered this problem with the tariff, we said proceed with bilateral meetings, but retain the ASEAN consensus, and without exception, all ASEAN leaders gave that tacit approval. I must truly appreciate, and with the coordination of the Secretariat.
Up next, UK renationalises first train operator under labour reforms. Spain has urged the world to consider sanctions on Israel as it hosts foreign ministers from 20 European and Arab nations in Madrid to push for a two-state solution. Spain said the talks aim to stop Israel's inhumane and senseless war in Gaza.
El silencio siempre va contra las víctimas y por eso hoy nos reunimos aquí tantos países con gobiernos de distintos signos, de distintos continentes, de distintas religiones, pero que todos creemos en los mismos principios. Ninguno nos resignamos a que la violencia sea la forma natural de relacionarse entre palestinos e israelíes.
The minister added humanitarian aid must enter Gaza massively, without conditions and without limits, and not controlled by Israel. The meeting also promoted a two-state solution to Israel-Palestinian conflict. Spain also would urge partners to impose an arms embargo on Israel. Representatives from European countries including France, Britain, Germany and Italy joined envoys from Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Morocco, the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Norway, Iceland, Ireland and Slovenia, who like Spain have already recognized a Palestinian state, also took part alongside Brazil. On the ground, rescuers in Gaza said 22 people were killed and dozens more wounded in Israeli airstrikes across the Palestinian territory on Sunday. Fatal strikes were recorded around Deir el-Balah in the center of the territory, Beit Lahia, Nusrat and Jabalia in the north, and the main southern city of Khan Yunis. Included told were the Civil Defences Director of Operation Ashraf Abu Nar and his wife, who were killed in a strike on their home in Nusrat. 2 Red Cross workers were killed in a strike on their home in Khan Yunis, with the ICRC reiterated its urgent call for a ceasefire. The Israeli army did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the strikes. Meanwhile, Kogat, the Israeli defense minister body that coordinates civilian affairs in Palestine, said 107 trucks carrying humanitarian aid were transferred into Gaza on Sunday. Meanwhile, the father of 9 children killed in an Israeli military strike over the weekend remains in intensive care. Hamdi al-Najjar, himself a doctor, was at home in Khan Yunis with his 10 children when an air strike occurred, killing all but one of them. Najjar was rushed to the nearby Nasser hospital in southern Gaza, where he is being treated for his injuries.
حالة حرجة استدعت يعني انه يتم اجراء عمليتين جراحيتين في بطنه وصدره لايقاف نزيف واصابات متعدده في جسمه في راسه وفي قدميه، وهو الان يخضع في العنايه المركزه قيد العلاج المكثف، وله وضعه الخاص انه زوجته كمان دكتوره استقبلت ابنائها الشهداء 9 من القصف، فالله يشفيه ويعينه ويعين كل الاطقم الطبيه على مساعدته ان شاء الله.
According to medical officials in Gaza, the 9 children were aged between 1 and 12 years old. The hospital said the child that survived, a boy, is in a serious but stable condition. Najjar's wife, Ala, also a doctor, was not at home at the time of the strike. She was treating Palestinians injured in Israel's more than 20-month war in Gaza against Hamas in the same hospital where her husband and son are receiving care.
هي قالت لي إن أولادي أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون. هي راحت على البيت وشافت أولادها وهم محروقين. هي الله يعينها. هي مرت فيه بس ربنا اللي بيقوي. ما كل اللي فيه ربنا بس اللي مقوينا.
In its statement about the airstrike, the Israeli military said Khan Yunis was a dangerous war zone. Bangladesh security forces surrounded the National Tax Authority headquarters on Sunday as its employees extended a 2-week-long strike over the interim government's reforms, reportedly leaving millions of dollars in taxes uncollected. Government orders to overhaul the powerful tax authority, the National Board of Revenue (NBR), have sparked fury from ordinary employees to top management. Bangladesh has been in turmoil since a student-led revolt ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in August 2024, ending her 15-year rule. The interim government, led by Nobel Peace Prize microfinance pioneer Muhammad Yunus, is trying to instill sweeping government reforms. The tax board protest reflects the divisions, rival loyalties and confusion between government branches and the caretaker administration. The government order issued on 12 May proposed splitting the powerful money-raising NBR into 2. Crucially, it would also hand control of the new sections to the government-chosen civil servants from outside the NBR. Joint Tax Commissioner Mona Lisa Saha Shusmita claimed that the strike will mean, in fact, that imports and exports will also be halted and that tax revenues totaling between 122 to 163 million US dollars per day had not been collected since the strike began. The UK Transport Department on Sunday revealed that South Western Railway has become the first train operator in Britain to be renationalised under plans by the Labour government to fix the country's troubled railway system. Britain's train services were privatised in the 1990s, but several operators have been renationalised in recent years by previous administrations, some of them losing their franchises after underperforming. Battered by the COVID-19 pandemic and disrupted by industrial unrest, key services have seen quality deteriorate and widespread criticism.
And so as we transition the train operating companies into public ownership, starting this weekend with South Western, we're going to require really high standards of those regional operators around punctuality, reducing the level of cancellations, improving the passenger experience. And they won't be able to use the brand and the logo of Great British Railways unless they've demonstrated to us that they have done that.
The Indian Navy and the Coast Guard jointly rescued all 24 crew members of a Liberian cargo ship that capsized off the southern Kerala coast. Rescued crew members of cargo ship MSC Elsatri received first aid treatment and were deemed to be okay. India's Navy said the cargo ship, listed as a 184-meter-long freight ship, which was sailing from the Indian port of Visakhapatnam to Kochi, ran into trouble on Saturday and issued a distress call. The Defence Ministry did not specify what was inside the containers it said were hazardous. Overnight rains caused heavy waterlogging in the Indian capital of New Delhi on Sunday. Traffic was backed up and vehicles were submerged underwater. Locals blamed the poor drainage system and said the priority should be cleanliness. India, with 1.4 billion people, relies on rainfall to support its population, many of whom live off and rely on farming. However, excessive rainfall can cause floods and waterlogging, especially due to poor drainage systems.
This year, the 46th ASEAN Summit and related summits bring together Southeast Asia's leaders for a more brighter and connected future.
With peace, prosperity, and partnership at heart, the summit paved the way for regional collaboration in trade, climate action, digital innovation, and more. More than a meeting of minds, it's a celebration of diversity, diplomacy, and determination. Join us as we write the next chapter of ASEAN's journey, inclusivity and sustainability. Welcome to the 46th ASEAN Summit and related summits.
Follow daily reports and live coverage on TV1, Saluran Berita, and RTM ASEAN.
Coming up in sports, Wei Chong and Kai Woon end Malaysia's 12-year drought. Welcome back. National men's doubles pair Man Wei Chong, T Kai Woon made amends for their Malaysia Masters 2023 runners-up heartbreak when they stunned compatriots and 2022 world champions Aaron Chia So Woo Yik to be crowned as the 2025 edition champions yesterday. Fifth seeds, Wei Chong, Kai Woon were in cruise control when the start of the opening set in the battle at Axiata Arena Bukit Jalil, racing to a 6-1 lead. The world number 8 then widened the gap to 9 points at 2011, largely due to a string of unforced errors, especially at the net by 4th seed Aaron Woo Yik, and closed it out with 21-12. Shaking off early nerves, the world number 3 Aaron Woo Yik unleashed an aggressive display in the second set, surging to an 11-8 lead at the interval and maintaining their momentum to force a deciding set with 21-15. It was a close fight in the early stages of the third set, with both pairs locked at 8-8. But from then on, Wei Chong and Kai Woon kept their cool and fended well to thwart their opponents from gaining any real momentum. A thunderous smash from Wei Chong sealed a famous 21-16 victory over the senior compatriots in a 50-minute rubber set battle, making them the first Malaysian pair to win the men's double title at the Malaysia's Masters since Goh V Shem Lim Kam Wah in 2013. Liverpool signed off their Premier League title winning season on Sunday with a 1-1 draw against Crystal Palace as Mohamed Salah's late equaliser cancelled out Ismaila Sarr's opener at a jubilant Anfield. With the league wrapped up with 4 games to spare, Sunday's match was played in a celebratory atmosphere and Palace fans still on high from last weekend's FA Cup final triumph joined in with an early chant of champions. Trent Alexander-Arnold, who had been booed by some fans in the wake of the announcement of his departure, was brought on at halftime to a warm reception on his 354th and final Liverpool appearance. After the match, Salah was given his Golden Boot and Playmaker of the Season awards by the Reds' all-time leading goal scorer Ian Rush, one of several Liverpool greats in attendance. Captain Virgil van Dijk then got his hands on the Premier League trophy for a second time, but unlike in 2020, in front of a full house, which last happened back in 1990. The celebrations continued on the pitch for some time as Liverpool squad took turns hoisting the trophy and basking in the crowd's adulation. Platense booked their place in the final of the Argentine Apertura competition with a 1-0 win at San Lorenzo on Sunday, thanks to a second-half goal from substitute Franco Zapiola. Platense, who beat River Plate in the quarter-finals, will face Huracan in the final after they overcame Independiente 6-5 in a trailing penalty shootout on Saturday. San Lorenzo struggled to find their rhythm in the first half, and their progress was further hindered when Ezequiel Cerruti was forced off due to injury as the game was halted for a few minutes. Platense pressed hard with efforts from Augusto Lotti, Ronaldo Martinez and Vicente Taborda testing San Lorenzo's defense, and goalkeeper Orlando Gil made some fine saves, ensuring the home side remained in contention. The visitors finally broke the deadlock through Zapiola, who came on for Lotti in the 70th minute and 2 minutes later scored the winner following a corner kick. Carlo Ancelotti wore a Brazil national team cap when he arrived in Rio de Janeiro on Sunday on the eve of his formal introduction as head coach. He's the first foreigner to coach the 5-time World Cup winners full-time in a century. The 65-year-old Italian, who arrived in Brazil just before 9 p.m. local time with several family members and his coaching staff, will also announce his squad Monday for 2 South American World Cup qualifying matches next month against Ecuador and Paraguay. Ancelotti arrived hours after Samir Zout was elected for a 4-year term as president of the Brazilian Soccer Confederation. Sunday's election marked the end of a tumultuous process mired in legal procedures that removed Ednaldo Rodriguez as CBF president. It was Rodriguez who hired Ancelotti from Real Madrid. Before Ancelotti, Brazil caretaker coaches Ramon Menezes and Fernando Diniz failed to bring good results and performances, and Dorival Jr. was fired in March after a 4-1 defeat at Argentina. Ancelotti, whose contract with Brazil runs through the next World Cup, is expected to meet the CBF leadership before facing the domestic media. Marco Bezzecchi won a chaotic British Grand Prix on Sunday for Aprilia's first victory of the season in a race that was initially red flagged for an oil spill, and riders crashed or retired while in the lead, including Fabio Quartararo. The victory was a first for Aprilia since the Grand Prix of the Americas last year. LCR Honda's Johan Zarco came second, and Ducati's Marc Marquez pipped Franco Morbidelli to finish third and extend his lead in the World Championship. Both Alex Marquez and his brother Marc crashed while leading before the race was restarted for an oil spill, while Paulicita Quartararo took the lead at the second time of asking before being forced to retire due to an issue with his bike. Bezzecchi then held on to win while Marc Marquez swapped places with the VR46 Racing Franco Morbidelli several times on the final lap before taking third in a photo finish. Bezzecchi's victory was his first since the 2023 Indian Grand Prix, and the Italian also became the 11th different winner at Silverstone in the last 11 races. Lando Norris slashed Oscar Piastri's title lead after navigating the 2-stop strategy puzzle to clinch his first Monaco Grand Prix victory. The British driver converted pole into the win around the famed streets of Monte Carlo as he held off home favourite Charles Leclerc in the closing stages. It was a slow and controversial race of strategy, game playing and tactics. The event is the jewel in the Formula One crown and undoubtedly the most famous on the 24-race calendar. However, the prestigious venue, which sees the cars hurtle past Casino Square, round the famed hairpin, through the tunnel and along the Principalities Harbour, rarely tends to lend itself to great racing. Overtaking is nigh on impossible, so in a bid to create more strategy options, the FIA introduced a mandatory 2 pit stop rule for this season. It failed to make a huge impact on the standings as the top 4 retained their order before being unable to pass in the final stages, with Leclerc second, Piastri third and Max Verstappen fourth. Lewis Hamilton gained 2 places to finish 5th but was almost a minute off the lead. George Russell ultimately finished 11th. Victory meant Norris cut his McLaren teammates' championship lead to 3 points.
Gegak gempita sorakan perjuangan bakal mengiringi perjuangan skuad kebangsaan bagi membawa nama negara ke kejohanan terbesar Asia. Nantikan aksi Harimau Melaya yang akan terus membaham, merobek gawang dengan 6 perlawanan yang bakal menentukan kemaraan. Saksikan ngauman perjuangan ini bersama-sama RTM, penyiar rasmi. Deruman jentera moped pelbagai kategori terus menggegar dalam perlumbaan motosikal Petronas Malaysia Cup Prix musim 2025. Dengan jiwa kelajuan, nantikan pecutan kemenangan setiap pelumba hanya di RTM. Super GT 2025 Series dengan 8 siaran langsung perlumbaan. Pusingan 1, 13 April dibawakan dari Litar Okayama International Circuit. Pusingan 2, 4 Mei dibawakan dari Litar Fuji Speedway. Pusingan 3, 28 Jun dibawakan dari Litar Sepang. Pusingan 4, 3 Ogos. Pusingan 5, 24 Ogos dibawakan dari Litar Fuji Speedway. Pusingan 6, 21 September dibawakan dari Litar Sportsland Sugo. Pusingan 7, 19 Oktober dibawakan dari Litar Autopolis. Dan pusingan 8, 2 November dibawakan dari Litar Mobility Resort Montegi di saluran sukan RTM. Juga secara penstreaman langsung di RTM Click.
That concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, ASEAN centrality crucial as backbone in facing global challenges. Till then, I'm SAHIH from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching.